All right. Welcome back to another episode of Analyst Hour. I'm your host, Andrew Regan, and I'm in the booth with a long overdue guest. And you know him and you love him, junior analyst Ryan Cadigan, and obviously the guest being Colin Kirkpatrick. Welcome, guys. It's such a pleasure to have you. Obviously, Michael is not here for the second week in a row. We're all very disappointed. We will miss his presence and his analytics, but he will make a mark on today's episode nonetheless. But first, Colin, welcome to the studio. Like I said, this is long overdue. I think it's only fair if we put you on the spot before we jump into doubleheader weekend, as I did Steve. So I drew up a few questions to ask you, and we'll start you off slow with the two ones that I asked Steve. One, who guards you the best?
Yeah, first off, I just want to say thanks for having me. Pleasure to
Of
be
course,
here.
of course.
Who guards me the best? I would say, Steve said Schuerk and Silva. Like, I would agree with that. And then I'll give Pat Archer a little shout out here. I've been playing with him for a while, so he knows a bunch of my moves. So it's very frustrating. So I'd say he guards me pretty well.
And then why would you say Silva guards you incredibly well? Just because he's a body and he can't get.
He's just yeah, he's like him and Schuerk are both very quick and strong. Like Schuerk is, but like Silva might be like more like deceivingly quick. So he does a really good job of just like kind of bodying like me or Steve, I guess, and like keeping us in front. And then he's always there for the shot and always has like a contest. So it's nothing easy with him. So you got to do the pump fakes and the screens to really get a shot off.
Yes, I'm very happy that I don't have to ever be guarded or have earned the respect to be guarded by Schuerk or Silva. And then the other question I wanted to ask you that I asked Steve was, who is someone that you have always wanted to draft, but given your area in the draft order, you can never really seem to scoop up. And again, the obvious ones are off the table.
Yeah, definitely Nick Germano, I'd say. Um, if the draft were a little different this year, he was definitely going to be my second round pick, and then I would have grabbed Ian in the third. Just the energy he brings on defense, I feel like he's just gets the team going, and then it's a pass first guy, which I really like to have on my team, so I can get a bunch of the shots up.
Yeah, Germano is a great presence. I mean, Ryan, you called him the cable guy for a reason.
It's true.
He's
It's
a
true.
great locker room presence. You know what he's going to give out there. I could go on and on about praising Germano. Um, One question I really want to cater to you, Colin, is something that we continuously praise you for, and I myself can attest to this, is people really like playing under you. You do a great job getting the team to buy in. You really go into every single game with some drawn up plan or scheme showing that, hey, I did my homework and here's how I expect you to perform. Um, what would be your advice to other captains who can't get their team as bought in as you have shown or have shown success with?
I would say a big thing that's very underrated, and I think me and Steve have kind of figured out, and maybe other captains haven't, is having like the same two or three guys on your team every year is huge because you just can kind of build off of it. It's like I've had Ian on my team for 4 years now, and it's kind of like you're not starting over every season. At least you have two guys who've played together, and like me and Ian have got to the finals, haven't won yet. So like we kind of have like a winning culture, I would say. So like we know like what to expect from others, and then it's really about filling in. It's looking for guys who like would fit your scheme. Like Ty, I know is like one of my best friends, so I know he'd buy in no matter really what I told him to do. And then you, Andrew, I knew you'd fit this game because I've played with you before, and you're a hard worker. So just looking for guys that you want to play with, not necessarily have to be your friends, but just guys that will work hard and really are already bought in on maybe another team, and then you could bring them over and then fit your scheme.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point because I mean, you and Steve, and I would put Jack Curtin in this camp as well, is like you don't really need to draft super, super intelligently because you guys can obviously carry the majority of the weight. So the fact that you can get guys that you're either friends with or know will buy in is more than enough for your team to succeed, see success. Ryan, I do want to point this question to you because I'm in the room with the two captains that I've only played under. And obviously everyone was bought in dad bod's year. Everyone was seemed to be buying for the Billies year. Is there anything Colin didn't cover that you have strategies in your toolbox when you were a captain to get guys to buy in?
I don't think so. I think it's just knowing the roster you have and watching every game, whether it's yours or a different set of opponents with a critical eye with your team in mind and thinking about, I don't know, how they can play them, how we can play them, whatever the case may be. I think on the Phantom this year, Alex, we started doing a good job with that a little bit later on into the season. Obviously, we fell a little bit short. We'll probably get into that later. But for me, it's just KYP, know your personnel, and making sure that your team is on the same page with you in that sense. And I don't know if we did that this year on the Phantom until a little bit later on, but I think that is essential to winning. We proved that dad bods year. Started to get that going when I had Z going these last couple of years and the duo that we had, but injuries unfortunately held us back a little bit. And I mean, you said it perfectly. I think Colin's a great example of really getting there, getting to the finals almost every year. And, you know, look at you guys in your conference right now. You're very close to getting over that hump. So like what Colin said, know your personnel. And I think that's the key.
Yeah, I'd like to give it kind of from a player or a draftee's perspective. Active group chats were always huge for me when I would go to a team. I formulate the roster, so there's a very good shot I'm at least familiar with the team that I'm going to. But I know that if, for example, like take Owen Bolger, for example, I don't, it might happen under my nose, but I don't see Owen Bollinger going getting drinks with Tyler Trapp, you know? But like, let's say they're on the same team. It is kind of the captain's responsibility to kind of chaperone these relationships and make sure that there's a good cadence because stuff like that does translate. So like Ryan, when I played under you, you always keeping the group chat active and Colin gives us long texts pretty much every day of him watching the footage or hey, let's break down this play or we got a big matchup this weekend. Let's attack it this way. Seeing that the other guys care, you're almost going to follow and seeing that your captain cares is huge because it's going to get you to care. Another thing that I love is, and Michael said this last episode, and I really hope this applies to everybody, is seeing your captain hold you accountable. Like the second Colin yells like, Andrew, I need that fucking rebound, because Tyler Beraldi got like 2 offensive rebounds on me as if I don't have 50 pounds and 3 inches on the kid. Like having Colin yell at me and holding me accountable obviously makes you want to do more. And even I think Mike said it last episode, like Costa yelling at him, seeing that, these guys are in, they're passionate about it, and they're not afraid to just like direct their anger at you is huge. And it's no one's taking it personally. It's like, okay, like this is serious. Let's kick it into gear. So as a player and as a draftee, seeing like the activity in the group chat, the captain displaying that they care is huge. And then accountability on the court. Like if you're playing terrible and your captain kind of just allows it, why should you care if your captain doesn't? So I think both Michael made a great point last week. Ryan, you during your captainship did a great job, and obviously Colin has displayed it throughout his entire career. But those were my main questions for you, Colin. Maybe I'll think of some more as we progress through this episode. But guys, we have a lot to attack.
Oh, yeah.
We're coming off of an incredible double header weekend. I do want to add, I think we saw 21-20 games. So a lot of these games were close. And let's just jump right into it. The first game that I want to talk about is the Sizzlers Legion.
Yep.
This was obviously on the first slate of doubleheader weekend. The Legion are such an enigma because we will see them drop 22 points. Then they flopped against the completely understaffed Thunderbirds. They played. We saw them play really well last week, and then granted, I said that they're the Walmart version of the Sizzlers, and this proved right. They had another flop against the Sizzlers. So Ryan, I want to hand it to you. What are your takes just for game one?
Yeah.
The Sizzlers Legion match.
Yeah, no, dude. I was I was watching that. I ended up pulling up for like the second half of it, but I think Louis awesome, man. For me, he's definitely got to be a nominee for Roll Man of the Year. he could be one of the favorites right now, depending on how you look at it. Pat could be in there as well. But for me, one of the notes I had was the Louis Smooth nickname holds up. And that is he's quick. He gets, timely steals. He makes open buckets. And like the big thing in ASL, and like Colin, I give you a ton of credit for this. Obviously, you're one of the greats, but like guys that can, and Andrew, you and I spoke about this the other day, but guys that make the shots they're supposed to make is invaluable in the league, especially in, these games can go very quickly, turn from a 20-minute game to a 40-minute game. You saw that in our game this past week. So like guys that can put away those shots and finish is big. And the Legion, as we said, they do that time to time. I think you calling them a Walmart Sizzlers is a fair take. And that's honestly, that's not even like that bad because the Sizzlers are just such a juggernaut. And that was really the second note I had in this game. And one thing I've been critical of for the Sizzlers this season, and really just with Foo's team, especially more of the Foo Schuwerk dynamic in general, and is it takes them a while to get to that 21 mark. And you'll see, Schuwerk's that's why Schuwerk is one of the greatest rebounders, right? Is he's so good at tracking down those balls, whether it's his misses, Connor's misses, whoever's on his team. The one thing that you're really seeing different this year with the Sizzlers is their ball movement. They're much more decisive. They know how to play to their players' strengths. And I thought this, game one of the doubleheader against Legion was a clinical example of that.
Colin, what were your takeaways?
I just think this is a nightmare. It was a nightmare matchup for the Legion. They rely heavily on their offense and three-pointers. And the Sizzlers are the best defensive team maybe like ever in this league. So when they're not getting open threes, they're gonna have to go rely more on like post ups and drives, and that's just not their game. So just going off of that, I think they weren't really able to score a lot, and then the Sizzlers, like it was only a matter of time before that offense got going. AJ is actually, I think, a huge add to the Shu and Fu duo. His IQ last year and this year, I've like really picked up on. He's such a smart player to play with. He's always in like the right spot too, so it's like he just makes like kind of fills in all the gaps of the offense that like the problems they've had before. So just in this game, you kind of see it too. If it's going to be close, it's a little close at the beginning, but I didn't really watch a ton of it. It just was too overpowering from the Sizzlers on a defensive end, and then eventually their offense kicked in, and it was just game over.
Yeah, I mean, this was exactly the big brother, little brother matchup that I was anticipating. I like the Legion on a personal level, and I root for them all the time. I was rooting against them in this scenario due to them being in our conference. But again, the Sizzler just at the end of the day, they're a well-oiled machine. They don't really spend a ton of stamina, or maybe they do, but they just have a ton of it in the tank. There's no defensive fall off. I was saying, like, if you're Louis and Costa who are relying on finding an open shot, let's say Costa is being guarded by Connor. He calls a screen. All right, he's off Connor, but now he's on Schuwerk. All right, he calls another screen. Then he's on AJ, and then he's just stuck. I mean, the Sizzlers defense just corners these guys. And obviously 22-7 is a huge margin, and it showed up on the scoreboard. And they also just have size. Like Costa and Louis are not brutes. These are guys who rely heavily on their skill and their finesse, which is going to tear a lot of teams apart, but not teams like the Sizzlers. I think Connor has shot the best he's ever shot in his ASL career, accompanied by obviously Schuwerk's great putbacks, his great rebounding, and AJ's a guy who is probably the most consistent ASL player I've ever seen. You know exactly what you're going to get out of AJ. You know exactly what he's going to add. He plays so well within his limits. He's never pushing his boundaries, which is great. He's so comfortable with himself as a player, which is why I think I cannot believe he fell to the second round. I think he's going to go back up to the first round in future drafts. I think Connor got his best team. I mean, this is like the trifecta. It's the greatest defensive team of all time. And this is also the first year. I don't know if it's because he likes who's around him or it was a mental switch. It looks like the first time Connor has trusted his teammates where he's actually comfortable passing and not putting the lifeline of their offense in his own hands. I think that's also reaping benefits for him because one-dimensional offenses can only go so far. This is a scary team. And I want to ask you guys now, and Ryan, we'll throw it back to you. What is it going to take to beat the Sizzlers? They're 5-0. They are on a pretty much a one-way ticket to set the best ASL season record currently held by the Super Pandas. And they could be undefeated. What is it going to take to beat the Sizzlers?
Yeah, you're gonna have to beat them in what I have said is kind of been their, at least Connor's flaw in the past, that he's really proving wrong this year, and that is offensive efficiency. Getting to your spots, really, as I said earlier when we were talking about just getting your players, whether you're a captain or a draftee, knowing your personnel, knowing your players' strengths, and knowing your opponent's weaknesses. So finding, where you guys are comfortable. For example, for the Phantom, I'm more of a post-up player, so trying to get switches on maybe some of those smaller guys, being Connor. I hate going up against AJ, so like a Schuerk or Connor would be someone I'd rather go up against. So like that would be one example for everyone on their own respective teams to find, gather who do you guys want to match up against? Where do you see your strengths in this? And at the end of the day, as Colin said, it's probably the best defensive team we'll ever see in the league. So it's being efficient, being concise, and it's definitely going to take some game planning. You can't expect to show up to the court on a Sunday and beat the Sizzlers. You're definitely need a game plan for this.
I also got to add before we kick it over to you, Colin. If I'm looking at the schedule, the Sizzlers have the Seabirds and then the Phantom. 2 out of the 3 statistically worst teams in the league. So I'm sure the Sizzlers are feeling fairly confident that they're going to finish this the regular season undefeated. So keep that in mind, Colin, when you're throwing out your answer.
Yeah, I would say they have a good odds of going undefeated. I would say that's a fair statement. But just to beat them overall, I'd say you need a really good game plan, like Ryan said, and you need to catch them on like a bad shooting night. To say you gotta make them uncomfortable. I mean, Connor, if he's getting open threes, he's hitting them this year, which I think's a huge difference for them. Then you also kind of have to beat them at their own game. Like you have to bring as much defensive intensity as they bring, or maybe even more. And then you have to win all the 50-50 balls. If you do that, that's a huge advantage they have. So like if you take that advantage away from them, then like you got a chance.
Yeah, I think taking on the Sizzlers is going to be such a roll of the dice for these teams. Like you have to have your best night and they have to have their worst night, or you just got to pray a family vacation is coming up for one of them. Other than that, like they have just shown that they haven't even shown really any signs of a weakness. They don't really display an opening that you can kind of go in for the the uppercut and catch them off guard. They really have kept their composure. They really haven't been challenged this year at all. We all know playoffs is a different animal, so we'll save that. But I really want to talk about it because Connor Fu is a guy who has kind of built this narrative that he's not going to come through. He always does this to us where he displays, a really successful regular season, a really good individual performance, but none of it translates to the playoffs. So sit on that. We obviously we got a few more games to get to before we talk about playoffs, but we'll move on.
Let's move
Then
on.
we have the Hoopers beating the Black Bears 21-20. Ryan, kick us off.
Yeah, dude. So this can go a few ways. I have a couple notes here. As of right now, from what I've been seeing from Curtin, he might be my MVP at the moment. His ability to will his team to wins. They've had different subs in and out. I've had my opinions on the subs compared to his actual roster. Whatever the case may be, Curtin shows up and he can put together winning performances for his team. What sticks out to me the most is he's a righty shooter, right? But you would never believe it. And I had to ask that because the way he can finish with his left, and he was cutting up the Black Bears in their defense, finishing going to his left in this game. So it was a close game, but at the end of the day, you just had, the captain that was the hotter shooter, the hotter finisher that day. And I think the Hoopers deserve to win that. That being said, the Black Bears, man, and it's not a secret. The league says that your guys' conference is maybe one of the easier ones, whether you think that's true or not. Nick Silva and Colin, you guys had the Stampede versus
Super Pandas.
Super Pandas in the conference finals, and that was a grinder of a series. Like Silva can turn it on, and he can will his team to wins. And we saw with the Stampede going into that final week of that year, and then through the playoffs, even through that finals run with Steve, and they made it close. One of the closer games Steve has had in the finals. So they got into that flow state. They got into that state where they were really interconnected. They were bought in. Silva knew what to do, knew how to play. And you're just not seeing that this year with the Black Bears. Now, I don't think that's on Silva. I don't necessarily think that's on one particular person. However, the level of buy-in with the Black Bears this year is clearly lower than, in my opinion, any team Silva has played. So I'm a huge fan individually of Silva. I think he is one of the few captains in this league that can will his team to a championship. So especially in a conference of your guys that is a little bit lower, for the competitive side of me wants to see him tap into that and get back to that, to even challenge you guys to make it to the finals. I think you guys are a shoo-in for the finals, but that's what I had. I thought Curtin played phenomenally. And another thing I love about him, they had a sub of Beraldi's friend, but like, I love how he empowers his teammates too. He always encourages them to shoot. He always finds them in the right places. So I'm a big fan of the Hoopers, and hopefully the Black Bears can pull it together come playoff time.
CK, what do you think?
I said something similar in my notes. I said, it was a back and forth game, 1 point game. I think both the Hoopers games were decided by 1 point this week. And I just wrote Curtin was the best player on the floor, and he just willed them to victory. So I think that was the huge difference maker. It was also interesting to really, I think there's some significant advantages for each team, like Silva in the post. I know Cam was the depoy last year, but Silva, his post moves are top 3 in the league, I would say. So he definitely had the advantage there. But the Hoopers offense with Cam stretching the floor, kind of like Porzingis-esque, and taking Cole out of the paint, leaving Silva one-on-one against Curtin. Silva's, like I said, a great defender, but Curtin is super quick, so he just got to the rim pretty easily and was carving off them and getting easy buckets. And then I also want to give a shout out to Beraldi's friend. I
Ben.
don't know his name, but
Ben.
from what I saw, yeah, he was playing really hard and great. He seemed like he was a great fit for that team. So overall, I mean, I didn't get to watch a ton of that game either because it was during our game, I think. But overall, both of those teams could be scary in the playoffs. If the Black Bears figure it out, I mean, I don't want to put it all on Arvin is shooting, but if Arv ups his 3-point percentage, that gives them just another option on offense that you have to guard, and you can't double Silva or Cole in the post. He could really stretch the floor for them. He could kind of be like Costa from the Stampede 2 or 3 years ago when they made their finals run, like Ryan mentioned. If Arv can kind of not, he won't do it as efficient and like effectively as Costa, but if he can be an offensive option like Costa was that year for the team, the Black Bears this year, they could make a run, I'd say.
Here's my thing. Starting with the Hoopers, one thing that's really cool to see is that, and I'll be the first to admit this, I looked over the Hoopers come draft night. As soon as, we knew the teams, we knew the conferences, I very much, and I know I'm not alone, looked over the Hoopers. I was far from impressed with the Hoopers. And then they made that trade getting away throwing away Owen Bollinger. I'm like, what are they doing? But Jack Curtin has really put their team on notice. I hope teams are now circling their matchup with the Hoopers. Colin, we have them next week. I mean, this team is legit. And by team, I mean one man, and it's Jack Curtin. I say it every week. These have the revolving doors of teammates. And Campbell is a great addition as well. And then obviously they're riddled with the Jesse Finn injury and Mburu in Kenya, who will be back for the playoffs. Jack Curtin is obviously going to get the nod for an MVP. You could argue he was robbed of one last year due to his injury. This guy is such an example, a prime example of what it means to be a leader, of what it means to be a point guard. He just has a diverse enough bag where you can't really rely on him to do one certain thing. And Ryan, the fact that he encourages teammates to shoot is something that kind of is few and far between, especially the guy who you don't know, who just showed up being Ben, encouraging him to shoot. He just knows how to have the morale at an all-time high. You would never know that he's playing with these guys for the first time. He's also just taken it, the unfortunate that has riddled his team. He's just taken it with grace. So I think Jack Curtin has been amazing. I think the Hoopers are going to be a great team simply because he's on it. Now going over the Black Bears, you guys keep citing the year, Nick Silva's Stampede year, and I'm going to give Nick Silva a little bit of slack. That Stampede year should have never happened. The fact that Dan Gerges fell to the fourth man where Silva was able to get Costa, Cole, and Gerges under him is ridiculous. I mean, that goes up there for the Sizzlers' current roster for just like the depth. The issue with the Black Bears this year is that offense that the Stampede had is just so diluted now. I want to challenge Arvin to drive more. He's really only been settling for threes, which is kind of his purpose on the team. Don't get me wrong, but it's become obvious and it looks like he's settling. When he perks up his chin and like he's just going to launch it. And I don't know why he's so reluctant to drive. Ironic coming from me, but that is Arvin. I think he's leaned too much and gotten too much tunnel vision with this 3-point responsibility that everyone has kind of assigned him. So that's where I'm kind of at with the Black Bears. They do play very iso ball. Nick will try to get a step back mid range, or he'll try to drive in or get into the post. Doesn't really look for teammates unless he picks up his dribble or gets the sense that nothing is working. Cole really kind of likes his no man's land mid range as well. And then I obviously kind of dove into what Arvin likes as an offensive player. They're great defensively, really good. In my opinion, they have defense checked. They're locked. They don't really need to touch it. They just play too individualistic, and I would love to see Arvin drive more. He's become too one-dimensional with the 3-point shooting, and if it's not working, it's useless. So if he has another way or another avenue of scoring that he can lean into, he needs to get it now, because they're now 1-4. Your back is against the wall. It's time to try something new. Those are my takeaways from the game. Now we can head over to the Seabirds' first win over the Phantom, 21-6. Rye.
Yep.
I'm reluctant to hand you the mic.
No, dude. It's funny. We were talking with our team before. Obviously knew Resendez was coming back. I've been high on Resendez for as long as he's been in the league. Same with Carter. Carter's great. I've been high on Carter since he played with Colin and Caddyshack, I think it was. I didn't catch the analyst hour last week, but I did see the odds. I saw we were -4.5. And I just absolutely hated that, because I knew when we were 0-2 or 0-3 and got our first win, I think we were 0-2 and got our first win. The odds are always in the favor of the team with the better record. But when you're, with only 7 games in the season and you're defeated yet to get a win, it's really, these teams get desperate for a win, and it definitely in win now. And I think it's such a thing. I was reluctant going into this game because I knew that they were going to be on a mission. That being said, I liked, I still obviously thought and wanted us to win. I think it really came down to it. Just they started off with ball. Gerges missed a 3 and he missed a floater to start the game, and then it was, there was, in the hindsight, back from there ever since. He didn't look back. He made like 5 or 6 threes on the game. And it's hard, man. And Carter just posting up. I was trying to get him on the post as best as I could. A lot of offense was generated off of that. He's a big dude. Resendez did a great job finding the right people, cutting, using those picks, knowing when to switch. I think, and then on the Phantom side, it's just our offense wasn't there. We didn't make a three the whole game. I didn't score. Alex was missing lays that he usually gets. And then we've talked about this too. I think Alex could have done a better job putting a hand up on Dan on those threes, but he knew that. We knew that adjusting into, the second leg, which we'll obviously get into. But yeah, you got to give credit to the Seabirds. They were definitely the better team. They deserved that win. And that was their first one of the season, which, what does that get them? The 2 seed in your conference, maybe? So I don't know. Good for them. I think they're going to be a lot better now that Resendez and Brzezinski are back.
Oh my God, that was funny. Colin, what were your takeaways?
It seemed just like this game was like over before it even started. Like
Yeah, I have like 2 bullet points as well.
the Seabirds came
We were
out.
kind of checked out, to be honest with you. I mean, it was probably pretty apparent, but we were kind of checked out throughout the game. We were already looking at T-Birds, which oh
Yeah, the Seabirds came out firing. Like Gergis was all hyped up. He was chirping Mike on the sidelines and like when
He's
Gergis,
obsessed with Mike. Holy.
he's
yeah.
so obsessed with
He's
Mike,
like a
bro.
fan. He's a fan.
I'm looking forward to their 1v1
Oh,
Yes.
this
is there
weekend,
another
I
one
think.
in the works? I'm not
I think
surprised.
so. But yeah, like Gergis was chirping, like Mike was kind of giving it back a little bit. And like I feel like we all know Gergis enough not to feed into his chirps and like his
Shenanigans.
trash talk. So like once Mike gave a little back, it just made Gergis even more motivated and he was hitting his shots and all of that energy just went to the Seabirds. It's good to see Carter back. He's just such a mismatch in the post. You could honestly run your offense through him down there. And I just don't give it to him down there. They kind of have to collapse on him and he can just kick it out and hit Gergis for 3. So I mean, going forward, that could be an effective game plan for the Seabirds, just like a base offense. And then for the Phantom, I mean, you guys definitely looked better game 2 against us. Like, I don't know what happened in this game, just low energy. Kind of seemed like you overlooked these guys because they were 0-3 or didn't have a win. And they came out desperate, and you guys just didn't bring the energy. And it was, by the time like it was halftime, it was just too late to recover. So I think that
Yeah.
was kind of what happened.
I'll just say one more thing, Andrew, then you can interject. But like, this is, I feel bad for Pisacreta too because I don't know. I think the Phantom were definitely a better team than our record shows. I think there have been cases throughout this year where role players have like really shot well against us, and we just haven't been able to match that shooting, and that's a big part on me. But Gergis is going to do that. I thought Pisacreta adjusted somewhat fine. But at the end of the day, like you just said, Colin, they kind of ran away with it, and we were kind of on to the next game. So
Yeah, like I said, I don't really have a long list of things to say. This game was almost like a fever dream. It was started and it ended very quickly. Few things to say. Adding Carter back just adds so many layers to the Seabirds offense. It was very apparent. So Colin, good job shouting that out. And Gergis is pretty much the only drafty you can hit threes. He's always Jesus. He's like one of the few players who can actually consistently hit threes, yet no one is guarding him there. I mean, he has set up shop behind the arc, and yet I don't see any defender within his general vicinity. It is beyond me. I wasn't shocked his shots were going in. I was shocked that no one was defending him. He's not a overly fast guy. He's not really known for his handles. I mean, it got to the point where they were just handing him the ball and he was shooting. He's an incredible shooter. His play style is written on a wall. Like you know what he's gonna do. Yet a lot of these teams this year, I don't know if they don't believe in him or what. And I'm not just saying you guys are included, but it's not limited to just allowing him to shoot. I don't think I saw him get contested really once, which is why I'm very interested to see this Sizzlers matchup because it's the first time Gergis should be challenged. Yeah, you guys were mopey. You guys were kind of carrying your feet. or not lifting your feet. I agree with you. I do think you guys are a better team than your record, and it's too little too late at this point, obviously. I think if the season was longer, I would have much higher hopes for you guys. Um, I'm not putting you in what if territory, but I agree that you guys are much better than your record, and it sucks because if you were in our conference, um, where we pretty much give out free handouts for playoff spots, you guys would not be eliminated, and you would have a little bit more extra room to make a name for yourselves. But yeah, that's what I'll take away, and then we'll head into the final game of the first slate of doubleheader weekend: Dogs Thunderbirds. I'm gonna wrap it around. Colin, why don't you start us off?
Yeah, even though we lost, I mean, I felt like we played a pretty good game, some encouraging signs. Honestly, it was great to see Ty score like 10, 12 points. I feel like I needed to play a little better there. Can't really, I mean, Ty's not going to score 10, 12 points every game. So, like, when you get that out of him, like, you don't want to waste that game and lose it. So, really wish we could have pulled that one out. But I think loose balls and rebounding really killed us. Just it was like a one or two possession game, really the whole game. And just a bounce this way, bounce that way. They get the ball, hit a three, just changes the game and the momentum. So, win those possessions. I think both teams had a pretty solid game plan defensively. Loved matching up against Steve, and we tried to double him as much as we could and let the role players beat us, and they beat us. So props to them. Um, yeah, I think it was an encouraging game. We played well. Not much to say besides just got to be better rebounding and hustling for the ball. And yeah, I'd love to see those guys again.
Rye.
Yeah, I'll leave this one to you guys more, but just to kind of echo Colin, any Steve Colin matchup is going to be Showtime hoops. One note I have for both Dogs Seabirds and Dogs T-Birds was Tyler should have always been a second rounder. He's like, given this platform, he's wicked excelled at it. And if there are big time winners and big time losers on the season, I think on an individual level, Tyler Beraldi has got to be towards the top of that list as a big time winner. His starting spot under Steve is like, you can't ask for much more than that. Obviously, they've already clinched playoffs and they're just going to make that work even better. So credit to them. It went back and forth. Trap had a great shooting game for you guys that game from three. I remember watching that and then going into our game, I was just thinking that, we can't let Trap have that. Obviously, Trap is going to be my matchup. So I was taking a little bit of a closer look at that. But yeah, back and forth could have been anyone's game. Colin, I think you summed it up well. Drew, what do you think?
First, I gotta take off my commissioner cap and attack myself. I think a lot of the errors definitely fell on me. I was telling Colin in the huddle after the game, I'm like, I didn't feel uncomfortable out there, but objectively, if I were to look, I watched the game, I looked uncomfortable, couldn't really seem to find my footing. Like I said, I got out rebounded by Tyler Beraldi for like two rebounds that should have been mine. And again, I wish I could chop it up to some reason. I don't know. I guess, well, obviously he must have out hustled me. That's really what it would have been. I couldn't I mean, I'm not known for my offense, but should have put a few in at the very least. I don't think I got a basket. I think I probably shot once that entire game. You got to disperse the offensive responsibility, and I just looked to pass it. I got too hyper focused on reading the game. Obviously, going up against Steven, it's gonna be you got to try a lot harder, or you got to focus a lot more. And I think I just got too narrow minded trying to read the game and try to find Colin or try to find Ty, who obviously have more offensively gifted than I. I think, but me not shooting, I think took away from the team and just looked like I felt uncomfortable out there. Commissioner cap back on. Calling he gave his everything. He did a great job trying to make adjustments. We came into the game obviously with the game plan and tried our best to execute it. They unfortunately read it pretty quickly and were able to really kind of spread us out, found us jumbling. It got to the point where like I was guarding Steven, Tyler, and Pat in one defensive possession. They did a really good job moving the ball around, where, Colin, myself, and Ty were kind of just bumping into each other like Three Stooges trying to call switches or anything like that. So at the end of the day, I think it was a great game. And it was great to see Tyler do what he does best. And we kind of labeled Tyler this question mark going into the season. And there were two guys, Colin being one of them, that said, no, this guy's legit. He's good. It was Colin and it was Dan Gerges. And Tyler has 100% delivered on his first round draftee status. It was really great to see. Love to see him catch his stride. But at the end of the day, Steve is going to do what he always does. And the fact that he was able to read our defensive scheme pretty quickly, we failed to make adjustments. Do I think that's the reason we lost? No, Colin and Ryan, I'll echo you. It's kind of like the 50-50 balls. At the end of the day, it was a one possession game against Stephen Shaw. You can't be too upset. All you got to do is learn from it. Colin, how about you? I'm banking on seeing them again. So we definitely have to, draw up a plan A, B, and C. That was one of our big mistakes, is we would put all of our eggs in this defensive basket. And while it definitely didn't crash and burn, there are a few plays where adjustments definitely would have worked. But hindsight's always 2020. We got a show to go and present. Let's go to the second slate. Biggest takeaway from this first slate, with the Seabirds' victory over the Phantom, that means that statistically the three worst teams, the teams that are all 1-4, their one win is against each other. So Seabirds beat Phantom, Phantom beat Black Bears, and Black Bears beat Seabirds. So that's a fun fact for you fans at home. But we'll head over into the second slate. First one I'm having in front of me is T-Birds Phantom. So Colin, I'm gonna throw it right back to you. Obviously, there was a blown lead in this game. Hearts were broken. Pit Vipers were broken. Playoff hopes were broken. So what were your takeaways?
Yeah, we should not have won that game, just flat out. I think we overlooked you guys from before the game even started. I'll admit, like, I thought we were gonna kind of easily just win that. Me and Ty were watching golf tournament before the game, or then the last hole or two, so we weren't super locked in. Definitely a little devastated after losing that first game to the Dogs. So just we started very slow, and you guys, Ryan, you took me and Ty in the post and just having no problem just bodying us, and we had to make adjustments quick, and we didn't really do that until the end of the game. But yeah, I think it was kind of a blowout the entire game, and then it was 20-12, and we just kind of strung some stops together, and then eventually found our offense. I think Ty hit 2 threes at the end. I hit one and got a layup, and somehow won that game. But yeah, I'd also say, like, I want to give Pete a shout out here. I know he was frustrated after the game, but him just screaming on the sideline like every play, it is super annoying to play against, and I could tell it brings like you guys energy when you're doing well. So like his energy, like it kind of like he started the game, it started and it was 3-0 and he subbed himself out and then just never came back in. But his presence was heard on the sideline. And I was encouraging Ian to do that too, because when you guys were playing super well, he was screaming, hyping you guys up, and we were just down in the dumps. And then eventually it started to turn around. But yeah.
Go ahead, Rye.
Yeah. Credit to T-Birds. You guys made shots in the end. You can tell probably energy became a factor towards the end. And, that's where the greats show out. So Colin, credit to you for keeping that energy up, keeping your team together the whole time. I'll say this, and I was saving this for our matchup just for kind of my notes on the T-Birds and my team, obviously. I think you guys are the favorites to win your conference. I think you guys have a great shot of getting over the hump and Colin getting that ring in the Steve Shaw era. And I'm rooting for you guys in that sense because, Andrew, obviously I've played with you a lot. Ian's one of my close friends, and Colin, I've loved playing with, against you and whatever. So I think you guys really have a shot. I think really to get over the hump, Andrew, I think you got to start shooting, man. I think everyone in the league knows you're going to look to pass first. Like, even if you have a wide open lane, like you get deer in the headlights sometimes. And you're more than a capable shooter and you got a great stroke. So like, I would love to see you do that more. I remember there was one play where you had the lay and you just handed it off to Trap, and it was either like a turnover or missed shot. And I remember Colin was just like, take that shot next time or something. So like, to me, that was, I think what went well for us in the first half was we knew Colin was the number one, obviously defensive assignment for us. And I felt comfortable on Tyler. And then, second half came along. Obviously, hindsight 2020, like there's things I would have done different. I had a pretty big three, I think, that got it to 18 or 20.
It was to 20. Yeah, I
It
remember.
was to 20. And then that next play, I checked up, passed to Dennis. He hit me back, and I just wanted to put it away. I took a dumb top of the key three. I should have taken Tyler because I had my way with him all game. I just couldn't finish all game. So, and then we let you guys stay in it, and that's on us. And you guys made threes. There was Colin, you hit that corner three where you had the off ball screen in the back, and Dennis was trying to switch that. I got around it, and that was a miscommunication on our end. So we both followed Tyler, leaving you. When you hit that, I was like, shoot, like I think this is bad because just can't make mistakes like that against you guys. So credit to you guys. I thought we were the better team for the majority of the game. I wanted, one more possession just to kind of have my way, but Trap did an all right job on me, like not letting me get the ball in the post in the second half. He definitely played physical. I wish I played a little bit more physical with him in the second half. Andrew and Ian didn't really do much. And Alex was great. And there's a lot, I don't know if we'll get into Phantom getting eliminated now or a different part of the show, but there's a lot. Obviously, I wish we could have done better. A lot of this I feel is on me, but I thought Alex was great. Obviously, after the week one loss against Dogs, Pete had a reaction that, we didn't know how Pete was going to be attitude wise, fourth man wise, locker room wise. And he came to us after that, and he really turned things around this season. And every single time he's been on the floor, he's made an impact, so much so where I would even throw him in fourth man conversations, because after week one, he's been just doing great stuff for us. So, one thing I'm grateful for about to be on the Phantom is great locker room. Obviously, I wanted to step down from being a captain going into this year because I wanted the chance to play with like another wicked good captain, and Alex was great, and he held up his end of the bargain. I didn't necessarily do that on my end, but there's always next year. We have 2 games left where we're planning to have a ton of fun, and credit to T-Birds.
Yeah, I'll participate in the Phantom funeral before I give away my takes. Yeah, I think it's just a team that never really found its footing. I thought you were great, Ryan. I thought Pissy's great. Dennis is a great defender, and Pete can definitely be a spark plug off the bench as well. It sucks you guys never really got it together, and it's like a too little, too late. Mix that with being in a tough conference. Unfortunately, the Phantom will go down as one of the more forgettable teams in ASL history. Just didn't really play in any big games, never really displayed that they had it. You know what I mean? But nonetheless, we can call it a good season. It's crazy to think that had you won that game, T-Birds and Phantom would have the same record.
Yeah, I think you guys, I'm outnumbered here, so I'll keep my mouth shut on certain takes. But yeah, you guys are good. We didn't. You're right. You're right. We didn't get our footing. There's not much more I can say around that. So yeah.
But I'll talk about the game. We do have to move things along. I think you're 100% right. Like this was we were so lazy. You guys played the best team ball I think you've played all season, because even your one win, it was, Alex and you, but everyone was involved in this game for the Phantom, and T-Birds didn't really look like they wanted to be there. It was right. I didn't know. I knew you guys were watching the golf tournament, but it looked like that. Like none of us were really locked in. It took like a timeout where you're like, oh shit, like our backs are against the wall. Like we're 2-2 right now at the time. We could be 2-3. This is ugly. We need to kick it into gear. And you're right, Ryan. I need to shoot the ball. I definitely need to shoot the ball because if I'm defending myself, I'm like, oh, what the fuck is that kid gonna do? He's not gonna shoot it. He'll pass. When that allows you to double team players like Colin and Tyler. And there's times where when times get tough, we just look at Colin and it was like, just take care of it. Just take care of it. And now that we have Tyler who can stretch the floor, it's awesome because that adds a whole other layer to the game where it takes weight off of Colin's shoulders and it also kind of jumbles up the defensive scheme that's being thrown at us because now you got to worry about that kid as well. Credit to Colin because when Colin hit that shot and we were talking about it on the phone and you brought it up in this episode, Ryan, having a kid on the team who can hit the shots that they need to hit is few and far between. You know, it's not common for guys to blow up in threes. It's not common for guys to blow layups. Colin hit an incredible shot that he should have hit, and he hit. It's a blessing to have. I say it all the time. I think Colin's a killer. He has a gene in him that he can really just kick it into gear and will his team to a win. Kind of like the shut the fuck up, give me the ball, I'm gonna take care of it mentality, which is why a lot of us just look at him and just be like, we'll help you in every way we can, but just take care of this, please. And that's exactly what he did. And yeah, we'll move on. Then we have the Hoopers and Legion game. The Hoopers came out 21-20. It was another close Legion battle. Unfortunately, they finished the day 0-2. I don't want to harp too much other than I think the Legion are a good team. They showed that they are just so inconsistent. I think this is going to hurt them come playoff time. I'm going to say it because if they have one of their off days, they are going to be the easiest team to walk through. If they have their good days, they're going to be a really good team. But because they've displayed so much inconsistency, I don't see them having too much longevity in the playoffs. Obviously, it's a best 2 out of 3 series where games are to 15. That's a roll of the dice every time for the Legion. The odds of you getting them for, let's say they go to 3 games or even 2, it's them being on their shit for 2 games or an entire series is very low, which is why as a Legion fan, I'm concerned for them. Hoopers are legit. We'll see them go on a deep playoff run. I'll leave my take there. Ryan, what do you think?
Yeah, I don't have much more to add. Curtin showed what he did again in this game. I wrote in both Hoopers games. I love how Curtin empowers his teammates. So just playing into the theme that their team chemistry, their team fluidity, it's a thing. It's real. It's a reason why the Black Bears aren't winning and the Hoopers are in certain instances. Chemistry is a very real thing. I think Colin, that's why you guys are always so good. You guys have practices, you game plan, you break down film, all this stuff. I don't think a lot of other teams do that. So teams that really have that feeling of togetherness are able to pull it out. And that was another example.
Colin.
This game was just very entertaining to watch because both of these teams just love to play like super fast. So it's kind of just like good clash right there. It's tough to get into like a stamina or like a super fast game against Curtin. He's just D1 athlete, so that was tough. I'd also noted Cam with the game on the line from 3 is one of the clutchest players in the league, I'd say.
Yeah,
I
good
think
point.
I think he beat us last year hitting an open 3, so you can't leave him open in the clutch. I like the Hoopers game. Cam and Curtin are, I think, honestly, a very underrated duo. So they'll be fun to watch and play against next week.
All right, now we'll go over the Black Bears and the Sizzlers. Again, I think we're the Legion or the Walmart version of the Sizzlers. I think the Sizzlers are just more athletic version of the Black Bears. They're both defensive juggernauts, but one of them have offensive prowess, and that's obviously the Sizzlers. I think a 21-15 game is the most Sizzlers Black Bears final score I've ever seen. One thing I think I got to add in a ChatGPT is that these games are make it take it, because if you notice, the majority of games have like a 4 to 7 point difference because of it being make it take it and it being a game of run. It's not often you see 1 possession games. We obviously were spoiled with them for this doubleheader, but that's not too often. So yeah, that's where I'll leave it there. Colin, what do you think?
Yeah, I said the Black Bears match up very well defensively against the Sizzlers, but just like you put it, 2 great defenses and one team has a solid offense, the other doesn't really. So yeah, that was the difference for me. I thought the both teams play the same way. It's like team with the better offense will come out on top 9 out of 10 times. That's the Sizzlers. Arvin, I think, did a decent job on whoever he guarded because it was that close of a game. But yeah, not much to note there. I do think the Black Bears could be scary if they figure out their offense.
Yeah, that also could kind of be like a too little too late, as they are 1-4.
Mhm.
So or I guess we'll talk about playoff scenarios after this, so never mind. I don't really have much to add to that. The only note that I made was same as the first Black Bears game. That was kind of what Colin just said. Was like offensive fluidity, just not just outside of Nick going ISO or Cole getting the mid range. I think they hunt those individual plays every time. I think if they had more ball movement for both on and off ball, and at least make it a little bit unexpected of what's going to happen, that would work a little bit better for them. But I think they kind of go into these one-dimensional sets where it leads to Silva ISO, or he dishes it to Cole for a predictable mid-range. And like we were talking about with Arvin 3.
All right, in the final game, the Dogs taking on the Seabirds. I think this was Steven's world this weekend. He was a guy who also kind of had his back up against the wall, displayed who Steven Shaw was for 2 straight games, obviously putting the Seabirds out 21-13. It was the Steven Shaw show. I don't even think that, Dan or Resendez really had an opportunity to get their feet set and utilize Carter. So again, I don't want to beat a dead horse, but Colin, I'll throw it over to you.
I mean, yeah, I was kind of worried about Steve's team after they lost to the Legion. They just looked terrible, honestly. And then this week, it just looked like a normal Steve team, just good offense, good defense, just all around good team. And yeah, I was chirping Pat maybe a little bit this week just because of how bad they were doing. And then he definitely figured it out. And the Seabirds could not match up with Steve and Pat. That duo just, I feel like that's a matchup nightmare for them. Whether they put Carter on Steve for just the height and then Nick on Pat, or maybe like I don't even know what the matchups were, but just a matchup nightmare. Someone has a mismatch. So yeah, Dogs won pretty easily. They looked good this week. Seabirds, wouldn't say they looked bad, but got their first win. But this was a tough game and lost, obviously. So yeah, they have something to build on.
All right. What are your takeaways, Rye?
Yeah, I don't want to add to the echo chamber here. I just have Steve is gross. I said this to you before the game, and what's crazy, bro, is like the rule, like we've seen Steve get a little more frustrated this year too. And like people can say, oh, he's a bad sport, or people is sour, or whatever you want to say. Like that's one thing, but like there's literally a rule implemented this season to essentially nerf his team. And the fact that they cleared this, went 2-0 this doubleheader, and like they're catching steam at the perfect time, uh, it's scary. It's crazy to think about. When he gets into his rhythm, like when shots are going in before the ball even leaves his hand. If Tyler's going to shoot the way he has been, and Pat seemingly gets better every year, they could very well be back in the finals again, which is crazy considering that the Sizzlers are playing the way they are in the same conference. So keep an eye out on them. I wish we had our Dennis in week 1 against them. I think that would have been a fun match, but like these guys are getting hot at the right time. And I'm looking forward to, how these last 2 weeks wrap up.
All right, guys. I said at the beginning of the show that even though Michael isn't here, he is with us in spirit, and he did leave his mark because thanks to the brain of Michael Goldsmith, I assigned him homework this week, and I said you need to draw up every single playoff scenario for every single team. So he was generous enough to send me the scenarios. I was able to draw up this little presentation where we can kind of break it down because playoffs, they're looming, guys. They're coming in July. And unfortunately, only one team has eliminated from the playoffs, and it is the Phantom. But for the 7 other teams, we got to see the options. So allow me to share my screen. I'm going to sound like I'm going to use such like corporate jargon right now. Yeah, hang on.
You guys hear me? Can you
You
see me
guys
all
hear
right?
me? You guys can see this okay? Can you though?
Yeah.
Yep.
All right, sweet. All right, ASL playoff scenarios, an analyst hour production, and from the mind of Michael Goldsmith. Here are some key matchups and tiebreakers. We have Legion versus Seabirds week 6. Legion have tiebreaker on the Black Bears. Thunderbirds have tiebreaker. Lecture for the screen audio. Can you guys see this pop up I just got on my screen?
No.
No.
Okay. Stay on. I'll worry about it later. Thunderbirds have tiebreaker on Legion and Black Bears, and Black Bears have tiebreaker on Seabirds. We're going to start with the Western Conference, guys. With the first seed, we have the Thunderbirds. We've already clinched playoffs. You're going to see us come July. Very exciting. We will clinch 1 seed with a win or a Legion loss. So, per the brain of Michael Goldsmith, Colin, we win next week against the Hoopers. The first seed is ours. Thank
Love that.
God we are in the Western Conference.
Are the Legion the 2 seed right now?
Yeah.
Oh my God. All right, go on.
Guys, this is it. Did the Thunderbirds get the job done?
Never. No. You guys
You
got
don't
a
think they're
long
going to
way.
be the first seed?
Oh. Sorry. I'm an idiot. Yeah, I think you guys are going to clinch. Who do you have next week?
The Hoopers. They're a good
Hoovers.
team.
And then who do Legion have?
I have no idea.
Okay.
Maybe like
Well, I think you guys will be good between the next 2 weeks.
I think it
I
might be
definitely
you, Ryan.
Yeah, aren't you guys playing them?
Oh,
And
dang.
Michael is going to be excited because he had a vendetta for the
Nah,
seed,
bro.
the
I'm
Phantom.
putting Michael on the ground next week.
I will say Michael is a
coming after
shark.
us.
He earned a senior analyst title saying you guys weren't going to make the playoffs. I have
Yeah.
to do my history, but you guys might be the quickest team to get eliminated from playoff contention in ASL history.
Yeah. Well, I'm definitely going to make sure Legion are not the first seed. So I'm looking forward to next week.
I'd have it circled on my calendar if I were you.
Yeah. Michael clearly does.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about the Legion. What are the playoff scenarios for the Legion? They clinch playoffs with the win, or if the Black Bears lose next week.
This is a fucking joke. Go on.
They clinch 1 seed if they win out and the Thunderbirds lose out.
Ooh.
Okay. Eliminated from playoffs if they lose out and the Black Bears win out. There are some mental gymnastics Michael had to pull. Well, all right. So the Black Bears have us week 6, Colin.
Yep.
And then I don't know who they play. They might have Dogs. Let me check.
Yeah, I'm going to pull that up right now too.
Just to make sure. Like, I do want to know how, like, the probability of these things happening. All right. They have Dogs. So I don't know. I don't know if the Black Bears can win out. We'll have to see. But that are the Legion playoff scenarios. Let's jump into the Black Bears. They clinch playoffs with a win and a Seabirds loss, or Seabirds lose out, or win and Legion lose out.
Cool.
That makes sense to everyone.
Clinch playoffs with win and
Mhm.
yeah.
There's
Yep.
3 separate scenarios right there. They're eliminated from the playoffs if they lose out, and the Seabirds win 1 game.
Got it.
Wow.
They clinch the 1 seed though if they win out and Thunderbirds lose out and the Legion lose out. This is a team that's 1-4, by the way. And Ryan is 1-4, eliminated from the playoffs. The Black Bears, who are 1-4, have a unlikely but a road to clinch the 1 seed in the Western Conference. Let's talk about the Seabirds. They can clinch playoffs if win out or Legion lose to Phantom week 5 and Seabirds defeat Legion, regardless of Seabirds week 5 results. Or if win 1 more game than the Black Bears.
So Michael's crisis from week 2 might be right.
Yes.
Where he was terrified to play the Seabirds.
Yes.
Oh, dude, you don't understand the purpose I have for the rest of this season now.
Now you do. The Legion actually Yeah, they should be scared of the Phantom right now. However, the Seabirds can be eliminated from playoffs with loss and Legion win and Blackbirds win, or if they lose out. How nuts is that?
With
This
loss.
1-4 team. They can't clinch 1 seed though, unlike the Black Bears.
Here's what really sucks, dude. Is like this is how crazy this conference is. If Resendez was here from the jump, bro, like I think the Seabirds are a totally different team with Carter and Resendez than whoever the hell they had in the first few weeks. So, and I didn't see as much, like I wasn't paying attention to them as much in the Dogs game. But they obviously whooped our ass and they have these next 2 weeks. So I don't know, man. I'd love to see Resendez on a playoff run. I've always thought he was good enough, but dude just never shows up. So anyways.
Cool thing about Resendez though is he snuck into the 1 seed last year with the
Forgot about that.
Spartans.
Yeah.
How crazy is that?
Who did they play?
The Spartans?
Oh, he had Ian, right?
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Okay. Yeah, cool.
But enough about the Western Conference. Let's go to the other one. Let's talk about the Eastern Conference. Start with the Sizzlers. They clinch playoffs. So like us, Colin, we will see them in July. They clinch 1 seed with a win or a Hoopers loss. Like that's actually like possible. That's it. That's it.
Yeah,
Let's talk about the
would be the
Hoopers. They also clinched the playoffs. Clinch 1 seed if win out and Sizzlers lose out. Makes sense. A little bit more straightforward. The Dogs. They clinch playoffs, which is great, but they cannot obtain the 1 seed. Mind you, this is the second year in a row that Stephen Shaw will not be the first seed.
Have we ever seen a championship team be the 1 seed?
I'm sure.
Steve had to do it one year, I feel like.
I don't know, but the Funky Monkeys year is the year he got injured.
Maybe. Anyways, sorry.
Wait, that's a really good question. Because the Funky Monkeys obviously won. Let me go back into the archives.
What's crazy to me is if we didn't change the draft order this year, I think Steve would have recreated Funky Monkeys again and done.
Yeah, he definitely would have, I bet.
Which would have been sick.
Yeah.
Oh no, unfortunately, the Funky Monkeys were the 1 seed.
Oh, okay.
That was a really good question. That's like weird to remember.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I was wondering if you'd make a page here. Fuck.
Rest in peace. Rest in peace. I was planning on doing our Phantom funeral to end the episode, but it kind of spontaneously happened. Ryan, I do want to give you the floor. Is there anything else you want to say about the Phantom before we wrap it up?
Yeah, man. Great season. I had fun with the guys. We never got it together. I think like obviously you can go back and look at the what ifs. I would love to play the Hoopers with their actual roster. Would love to have played Dogs with Dennis and would love to have not gone into cardiac arrest in the second half of the Thunderbirds game. So either way, we got outplayed. I didn't play up to first overall pick this year. So that being said, I love playing with Alex. I love playing with Dennis. I'm going to throw Dennis's name. Don't look at our record. Look at his individual matchups. I'm going to throw his name in the depoy hat. I'm going to throw Pete's in the fourth man hat. And I'm going to throw Pissy in the MVP hat. So thanks to all of them for letting me play. And we got 2 games left where hopefully we'll can put together a season that isn't totally forgettable. Let's take down the Sizzlers. Let's take down the Legion.
All right, guys, thank you so much for hopping on. I very much appreciate it, and we will catch you guys later.